Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Think Like a Thought Leader show, where Black entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers like you come to learn how to build wealth related to the work you do in the world. Now, listen up. If you're an entrepreneur who's ever had to deal with overdue or delinquent invoices or purchasing orders, listen up. You definitely want to tune in because we have a revenue recovery expert here with us to help us understand how to prevent cash flow crises and get the money that you are owed. So, for those of you who are watching this right now, do me a favor and drop a comment. If you can think of one person or company right now that still owes you money for services rendered or products delivered, because this show is for you. And if you're a consultant or a freelancer who's tired of Google searching politely worded emails to ask clients to remit payment, if you're angrily blasting Rihanna's famous song, Betta Have My Money, on repeat. And if you're this close to calling in the goons and big homie to come collect your cash, then you definitely want to, again, continue tuning in right now. This show is all about helping you recover your revenue. And I'm so happy that our special guest thought leader, Dee Bowden, is here with us today. No relation thus far that we know of. Hey, Dee, how you doing?
What's up, Courtney? Good afternoon. As I like to say, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you listen to this fabulous podcast around the world. I am Dee Bowden. I'm the founder and CEO of BCS Solutions. Thank you so much for the fabulous introduction. It's so cool that we have the same last name. I say Bowden, she says Bowden, but hey, it's still spelled the same way, so here we go.
Tomato, right?
There you go, exactly.
Fun fact, Dee just taught me something. She said that they say Bowden up north and Bowden in the south. So I guess that's the difference between the two pronunciations. But I've had to juggle with this for the last 2 years since this is my new married name. So thank you, Dee, for putting me on.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So here we are.
We have a lot to discuss today, but before we get into it, I encourage those of you who are watching to share this with a fellow entrepreneur, consultant, freelancer right now who has ever complained to you about a rogue client or a customer who has not paid them. And as always, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments because I'm sure Dee would be happy to tackle some of them for us today. So, Dee, can you take a brief moment to explain the work that you do and the greater mission that fuels it? What is a revenue recovery expert?
You know what, Courtney? What a great question. It's a fancy term for debt collection, but it's on the business side versus the consumer side. Because most when people hear debt, let me start with this way. Most people when they hear debt collection, they think the IRS, the car repossession person, their medical bills, their credit card bills. And so I had to figure out a way to distinguish myself, particularly because my career of almost 20 years has been in what we officially call receivables management. So receivables management is on the corporate side, the government agency side, business to business, business to corporation, business to government. Revenue recovery is a nice term for saying debt collections, but it more has to do with business to business. So that's number one. Number two, when you think about it, when you think about your business, you're looking at cash flow, income, revenue. Simple terms are basically that if you don't have any money coming in after you made a sale, what you gonna do? So you have to get comfortable with collecting money. I say it like this. Most people want to get into business. They start a business because, number one, they want to solve a problem. Most people, when they have this great idea to start a business, they're like, oh, I can do this better than so-and-so. Absolutely. Okay, cool. You know how this, can you sell better than so-and-so? Oh, oops. Yeah, that part. Yeah, you got to sell. Yeah, you got to sell. So we might as well get into it. So you have to sell. You need to have a legal contract or an agreement of some sort. You have to have a product or service that you provide. You have to invoice for it. And then my lane, which is collections, you got to collect your money. Now, in this online space, offline space, Cash App, PayPal, all of that, I got it. But listen, legally, you want to make sure your business is set up so you can actually do business, because that's a really important part. Because a lot of people think, oh, I got a Cash App. I understand in this online space people use that, but legally, you need to have your business set up so you can actually do business. So revenue recovery covers collecting your money into your business. And that's more if you're at the point where you've started to, I think the term is called scale. If you're brand new into the entrepreneurship game, you might not be saying, what is revenue? Simple terms is cash in your business. That's what it is. It's cash flow in your money. It's cash in the business.
I love that. Thank you so much for that overview, because I know when people think about collections, they immediately think about just themselves as a consumer. But for the entrepreneurs, the consultants, and all the kind of experts who get paid for products and services, this is a really, really important conversation. And I agree with you when you talk about setting up systems that actually allow you to do business, because I've heard so many nightmare stories about Cash App and how those sort of instant payment platforms have created misunderstandings between two parties. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But we have a very special viewer who's sitting in, Dave Anderson, who says, I need Dee to come get my money.
What's up, Dave Anderson? How are you, sir?
So Dave, we're gonna talk about how Dee can help you get your money and how you can connect with her a little bit later in the show. But first, Dee, can you talk about some of the major ways you've been able to help your clients transform their businesses? And at what point do businesses really call on you for your expert support?
Well, that's a great question. So how about I do it in two ways? I can answer that question, or I can tell a story, or I can do both.
I want you to tell the story.
You want me to tell the story? Well, I'm going to tell the story of how I actually got into this, because most people wake up and go, okay, who wakes up and says, I want to be a collector? You're like, not me. It's like, I'd rather do anything else than go have to chase people down for money. But here's what I know for sure. Collections, whether it's business to business, business to corporations, business to government, or even consumer, it's problem solving. Okay, I'll give you an example. Probably most people can probably relate to this. Everybody under the sound of my voice has a cell phone. I'm doing the story a little bit different this time, but most people, okay, if I hold this up, everybody and his brother and sister has a cell phone. Here's how collections works. You, whether you're team iPhone or team Android, somebody sold you a phone. How do I know that? Because you have it in your hand and you use it every single day. Number one. Number two, you have a contract with that company. How do I know that? Because basically when they told you you want to purchase this phone, they basically had to swipe your credit card, and you might have been sitting there like this waiting for those two magical words, transaction approved. So you had a sale, you have a contract with the phone company. The product or service was delivered because you actually have your phone. Guess what? Then they invoice you every single month. How do I know that? Because you get an invoice, you get a bill from whether paper or electronic. You get your bill from their phone company every single month, and it goes over the terms, the conditions, whether you bought the phone outright or whether you're on a payment plan, and it tells you what do you owe them every single month. And then my lane, which is collections, you pay them. Or as I like to also say, they got this magic little button that says services disconnected if you don't pay them. So that's what happens. So what I use the cell phone as an expression of, here's what happens in business. So there's a sale, there's a contract, there's a product or a service, you invoice, and then you get paid. And basically what business owners are struggling with is, how do I solve the cash flow puzzle in my business, especially when I've done the sale, the contract, the order, the service, I invoice them, and then they won't pay me. Well, how you do that is this. About 15 years ago, I used to work for a small IT firm outside of Boston, where I'm from. They were like, hey, Dee, you do collections? Yep. All right, cool. Well, we got this major problem. The major problem was they had $8 million worth of sales on the books, not in the bank. Yes. True story. So they
needed you quick, fast, in a hurry, Dee.
Yeah, they did. So they had $8 million worth of sales on the books, not in the bank. So if you take my cell phone example, so they had everything transpired except the last lane, which is collections, which hadn't happened. So I happen to be a believer. So I said a short prayer kind of like this. Hey, God, yes, Dee, I need your help. I don't know how they got $8 million worth of sales on the books, but I need some real quick wisdom on what to do to figure this out. So I kind of got quiet. And then I realized this was a problem, because I see collections as two things. I see collections as problem solving, number one, and it's an extension of customer service. So I realized what happened was the sales went through, the contracts went through, the computers were being sold, the invoices were being done, but nobody followed up on the last part, which is collections, which is customer service, or in my case, problem solving. So got to work, so they gave me a list of accounts, $8 million worth, said my prayer, got my information, went to work. I recovered $6 million in 60 days while working part-time.
Okay, so that's a wonderful story and a wonderful segue.
But there's more.
Into
There's more. Hold on, as they say, there's more.
But wait, there's more.
There's more, definitely. So after I get the $6 million back from the company, the CEO of the company says, "Listen, I need everybody to come downstairs." This was on or around October 24th to 5th, 2005. I was like, Now I usually say at this point, if you have a boo or a boo-ette, when he or she says, "Listen, we need to have a chat," you're like, I don't want to talk to you today. I don't want
right.
So we come downstairs and he says, listen. We want to thank everybody for your fabulous service across all the departments, whether that was sales and contracts, order entry, invoicing, collections. But we've made an executive decision and we're closing the company. You got 30 minutes to go get your stuff and leave the building. This is 2 months before Christmas. So started out $8 million, said the prayer to God, got the information, collected $6 million. Now I'm part of a collections team. It wasn't just me, but there's less than 100 people that work for a small company whose lives got turned upside down 2 months before Christmas. So why do I do what I do? Because of what happened to me personally. I went to work like most people who have a dream. I went to work for somebody else's dream at that time. I believed I was part of a great team of great people who were making a difference with a small business. Everybody who's listening to me now either is a small business, wants to be a small business, or plans to grow into or plans to scale their small business and may eventually hire people. So I'm an employee at the time of a small business whose management did not pay attention to some of the things that were missing, like what's the state of your accounts? How do you let that much money sit on the books and it not get collected? How come nobody asked the question of how come we still owe this money? So I created BCS Solutions to do two things. Number one, to do conversations like this, to talk about why you need to know the state of your accounts. I don't care if you have one account or 100 accounts. You need to be able to track what's going on. So, for example, I use the cell phone as an example. Don't you know that Apple, Samsung, whoever products they sell, they know how many products were sold during the course of the month. They also know how much money is coming in for the course of the month, and they know what to do if they're not getting the money. Same thing as a small business owner. The reason BCS Solutions exists is that you, as a small business owner, whether you have one account or many, you need to have a tracking system that tracks what's the name of your customer, what's the contract number or agreement number, how much is it for, what did they buy from you, when are you supposed to deliver to them, when are you supposed to invoice them, and then when are you supposed to get paid. That's a very easy thing you can do. You can do it. Basically, I joke all the time and say, I'm old school, so I like Excel spreadsheets. You can do it on Excel spreadsheet. You can do it on a big old whiteboard or those big old Post-it notes. Or I'm sure I jokingly also say there's probably an app. You can lay it out on the app. I don't care how you do it, but the point is you need to track what's going on. What happened with the company that I worked for is that everybody was so focused on the sale, on the next this, and they neglected the back office part, which is my lane, which is collections. And so they kept saying, "Oh yeah, we're good," when you weren't. And so because the money was on the books, but it wasn't in the bank, they were making plans. But unfortunately, they made these plans, and then it came to roost. They're like, "Oops!" Well, "Oops!" turned into 100 people losing their jobs 2 months before Christmas. And so that was personal to me. And so over time, I went back into. I've been in my career, doing this for over 10 years, and then I started looking at how many small businesses like the one I used to work for are potentially up against this same thing. Fast forward to 2020, you've got COVID-19 going on. So you've got companies that have already provided sales, already provided products, already provided services, and they're like, "Oh, I'll invoice them later. Oh, I'll go collect that money later." Now you're scrambling because you're like, "Oh, fill in the blank. Oh man, I should have asked them for my money a while back." Yeah, you should have, because right then, when you provided, depending upon what the terms of your contract said, it probably told you, provide your service and invoice us within 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, and collect your money. That's why I exist. I exist to have this conversation because I understand that, number one, collections is never sexy, except when it comes to me. But hey, fuck it up.
Look, anytime you talk about collecting money, bringing revenue in, that is sexy to business owners.
It is. And so what I'm learning is that a lot of people get scared because their concern is that, listen, D, if I go ask my customer for my money, I might mess up the relationship. Well, number one, do you have them? First of all, how can you mess up a relationship that you already have unless you haven't taken care of them all the way through the sales process? Meaning, when you first got them as a customer, did you say thank you for becoming my customer? Did you do what your contract said, and did you provide the product or service? Have you followed up? And if on the off chance that they haven't paid you, did you or somebody that works with you call them to find out, number one, what's going on with the invoices, number one. Number two, I basically tell you, it's kind of like this. Hi, I'm Dee calling from such and such BCS Susan's company. Can I speak to Susie? Hey, Susie, how you doing? Good, how are you? Hey, you know what? Got a concern. Got this invoice that's still outstanding, and I'm calling to find out what's going on. Hey, Dee, you know what happened? Well, what had happened was, okay, here we go. Well, here's the story. But
Yeah.
Hey, it's part of it. Here's the story. But the reason why you need the story, because the stories tell you the facts. The story tells you the facts.
So Dee, I'm really glad that you brought up this scenario because I want to talk to the freelancers and the consultants and the solopreneurs out there who are struggling with this sort of back office type of area in their business operations. You know, they've been able to make the sale and they do great work, right? But they are now at a point where a client's invoice has become overdue. You know, let's just say between 7 to 14 days. Can you give them some sense of the initial steps they could take to recover the money owed to them outside? Like, so say for instance, they've already tried emailing. They've already tried, like they've Googled how to email a client that has a past due invoice. Right. There's so many listicle articles. There's no shortage of information around that. They've tried giving them a call, but they just feel like the client is dodging them. What do they do?
Well, number one, first thing you do is go look at your contract. We're gonna start right there, and here's why. Did you do everything that was in the contract? That's the first thing, because before you even get on the phone to make the phone call, you need to be prepared. You need to go through and confirm. Okay, I have an agreement with this person, and I was supposed to sell them 10 sneakers. I only sold them 8. Well, then they're not paying you for 10 sneakers, so they only got 8. Did you fix the problem with the 2 sneakers? So that they bought 10 sneakers. Did you give them 10 sneakers? If you only gave them 8, why am I going to pay you for 10 sneakers? I don't have 10. I got 8. I need you to fix the problem. That's the first thing. Secondly, you do need to follow up, send an email to them and just remind them. It's a gentle reminder, because a lot of it is relationship building. And that's what people forget, because most people think collection is like, hey, you need my money. No, you have to build a relationship. Just like you built a relationship to get the sale, you have to build a relationship to recover the money. So your approach is to call them to find out, hi, Susie, this is Dee from such and such company. I'm calling to confirm that number one, is everything okay? You can ask that question. And number two, if they tell you they have an issue, first thing you do is say, thank you for letting me know that, number one. Number two, write it down. And number three, follow it up with an email and confirm everything they told you that was wrong. And then let them know you plan to address it so that you can get paid.
Why is it important to have all of these correspondences in writing, Dee, in addition to one's contract?
Oh, number one, you have to have a record of every transaction that happens, because if you end up having to go the legal route, that's not my lane, but I'm just saying in general, if you have to go the legal route, you need to be able to document everything that transpired. You need to have a copy of the contract. You need to have a copy of proof of delivery, copies of the invoices and the conversations, so that an attorney can say, what have you done to resolve this before you got to me?
Okay.
Before you get to me. Because the lane that I'm in now, because I remember saying like, well, Dee, do you do? I don't. First of all, I deal more in corporations and larger companies. But for the smaller companies, I want you to understand this, is that tracking your information is important, whether it's a consultant agreement, basic agreement, it doesn't matter. having all your ducks in a row is super important. Number one, because if you have to go to court, you need to be able to show this is all the things that I did to try to resolve this first before you go there. And then you have there are letters that you send. There's a first letter, second letter, third letter. Then you let them know that if we're not gonna be able to resolve this, then you can talk about taking them to court, or writing them off to collections, and then a collection agency will come in. That's not me. I'm a collections consultant, not an agency, but a collection agency would just come in, basically take the account, take it over, but they're going to go, they're not going to try to resolve it for the full amount. They're going to try to resolve it for a set amount. And then they're probably going to be mostly super aggressive, and they don't care about the state of your relationship, because they're like, hey, whatever, listen, we just want our money.
At this point, it's severed, pretty much, because it's so outstanding.
Right. And
so
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm in the type of collections that I've been doing in my career and in my business. It's all been about building relationships, because for the kind of money I've done, whether it's been $100, $500, millions of dollars, as I told at the beginning of the story, it's all about relationships, and it's all about figuring out the problem. Because normally when people don't pay you or they're avoiding you, there's a problem. What I understand most importantly is that most people, when they avoid you with a money problem, it's because they're embarrassed, number one, and they're too ashamed to tell you that I've got money issues, versus getting on the phone, having a Skype conversation, having a Zoom conversation. Listen, Susie, Jew, Chiquita, whoever, look, here's the issue. And I tell them this: some money is better than no money.
Yeah.
Let me say it again for the people in the back. Some money is better than no money. If you have a contract that's let's say it's $10,000, and your customer says, I don't have all the money right now because I'm waiting for payments from another customer, but they are willing to work with you to make some type of payment. This is what I talk about. It's all about the relationship. I will take the partial payment, and you document that, and then you follow the email that says, okay, per the contract, I was supposed to get this amount. You paid me this. I'm short this, and I owe this. You document it and you send it to them, because number one, what you're doing is you're taking them in good faith that they're going to follow through and make that initial payment, at least a partial payment, and then you're going to follow it up and make sure you get the rest of your money. Versus, oh no, I'm not. You're not going to pay me my money in full amount. Versus, okay, fine, you just messed up that relationship. And I'm saying you're thinking about. I hope you're thinking about, I want to do repeat business with this customer, but if I'm not willing to work with them at this juncture, how do you know if that customer gets a larger contract, they won't reach out to ask you to partner with them? But if you won't even work with them at the smaller end, why would they consider you for something larger? I wouldn't.
So, Dee, I have to confess that today's conversation really hits home for me, because when I first started out in business, my first couple of years, I was stiffed by one of my first clients. And because I was so new in business, because I just did not know where to go, and honestly, I didn't have the resources, the financial resources to pursue it in court. I just kind of let it go, and it still hasn't been resolved to this day. Again, confession. So I want to talk to those entrepreneurs who have just really chalked it up as a loss. This is not a new invoice. It's not newly delinquent. This is maybe months, perhaps years in the making. Yep. What do they do if they feel like, I don't even know if it's worth it? Now, if it's $100, $200, of course, go get your money, bro or sis. But I'm talking about thousands of dollars, money that really can make the difference between making or breaking one's business. What do you say to that?
Well, the first thing I say there is I'm sorry, because you didn't go into business to lose money. You didn't go into business to not get paid for your product or services. But here's a hard lesson in life. You are sometimes going to get stiffed. You're sometimes going to lose money. Let me give you an example. We just watched Payless Shoes, Charmin Charlie's, some Kmart stores, a couple of Barney stores, a couple of Macy's stores, and some other stores. They definitely did not plan on losing these sales and losing this money, but it happens. Unfortunately, there's a thing that I call it. You have to decide how much is it worth it to you to go through the stress and the headache and the agony of chasing down this customer who probably in the beginning, there were probably some telltale signs, and you're like, oh, I'm going to ignore it. It'll be all right. It'll be all right. No, it won't. No, it won't.
So what are some of those red flags, Dee? Because looking back, you're right. You're right. There were red flags that definitely popped up, and I just kind of let it go because I was new in business and I was excited for the opportunity. I was excited to have the client. So what are some of those important red flags that pop up?
Red flag first red flag is when they will not meet with you to go over everything that you're going to do for them. They keep telling you, oh yeah, we'll just do this. Nope, you need an agreement. You need to have it outlined. What did I said it when I was going through the list. I said name of the customer, contract number, agreement. What did they buy from you? You need to have a legal contract that's, basic contract that says, what did you say you were going to do? That's the first thing. Number two, if you notice that every time you go to call them, there's always a story. Every time you talk to them, they got some story. You can never seem to get a straight answer about what's going on. That's a flag, because that means that there's something that's going on that they're not willing to be upfront and tell you about it. So they're like, because basically they're like, well, let me just go ahead and get this done real quick. We'll fix it later. Well, you won't fix it later, because if you don't fix it on the front end, it ends up becoming an administrative nightmare or financial nightmare on the back end.
Yeah. And that's one of the major mistakes that I made early on with this client was that I was repeatedly told that the check was in the mail, right? Like that ever elusive check. Yep. And now
here's something. Here's a tip right here. When a customer tells you the check is in the mail, here's what you do. Hi, if the check is in the mail, can you tell me what's the check number, please, for the amount on what date? They can tell you that. And then they'll give you a date on when it's going to be processed. Because if you're doing it through the automatic clearinghouse, ACH, or EFT, or electronic funds transfer, it'll show up with the transactional code. It'll tell you when it's supposed to hit. And if they keep telling you it's not, oh, check's in the mail, well, then what's the issue? And then you can ask them straight up. You keep telling me the check is in the mail. I don't want to mess up our relationship, but I want to get paid for my services. Could you tell me why paying this invoice is such a challenge? And then be quiet and let them tell you. And write it down.
Could you tell me why paying this invoice is such a challenge? For those of you who are watching, you really want to write down that question because should you ever encounter a client or a customer that just has refused to pay an invoice that's outstanding, ask them outright. That's some really good information, Dee. Thank you.
You're welcome. Just ask them, why is it paying this invoice such a challenge? Could you tell me what's wrong? Is there something that's wrong? And then pause and then let them tell you. Because it may not even be anything on your end. It could be on their end. But until you decide to take the assertive approach and do basically, like I said in the beginning of the conversation, collections is two things. It's problem solving and an extension of customer service. You basically are you are working to get to financial resolution, which is getting your money in the bank. But sometimes you have to ask the questions. And most people are like, why ask you all these questions? And you have to take it down a notch. I'm like, not trying to put you on the defensive. I really just want to understand why we, for the services that I provided, why am I having a challenge with getting paid? And you can remind them, per the contract, we discussed this. We discussed the following. That's why you do the tracking of about everything that transpired, and you follow it up. Because if they say, "Oh, I never said that," well, yes, per the contract, you did say that. And on this date, we talked about the following, and it's in an email, which is timestamped as proof positive of what you said.
Good stuff. So, what if? I want to talk about timing. When is an appropriate time to really call up a client, call up a customer, and just get down to brass tacks about your money? Because having experienced this personally and just knowing other entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, consultants, and creatives, that's the last thing that we want to do.
Right.
You know, to your earlier point about really confronting the client, because, you know, we don't want to mess up the relationship, and because it's hard to have those kinds of conversations. So
well,
I
here's the
want
thing.
to
Let me hit something about that. Let me just jump in right now, because here's the thing.
okay.
It shouldn't be hard. That's let me just say that. It shouldn't be hard, because here's the thing. You're in business, whether you're creative or not. You are in business to solve a problem and make some money. That's it. What makes it hard is all the emotional stuff that you have tied around it. I don't want to. Well, okay. Well, I don't want to is going to leave you broke.
Ain't that the truth?
So I don't want to is going to leave you broke. So and here's the thing. I understand. And most people say, oh, you seem, hard about this. I'm like, no, I'm not hard about this. Like, listen, I understand that most people, when they're creatives or when you're a solopreneur or whatever, you don't want to have to go ask the person for the money, because you're thinking they're operating just like you, with integrity, that they're going to do their job just like you did. But you got to flip your hat, if you will, and go realize, okay, what, some of the signs, like I talked about earlier, some of the signs that came up earlier. So to answer your question, brass tacks, per your agreement, what did you lay out in your agreement? You're gonna have, okay, for example, if you have a consulting service, you said, I'm buying 6 weeks of a consulting package. You got a deposit on this date, and you have 5 payments that are hitting on this date, this date, this date, this date. Okay, cool. Swipe the credit card. Oops, we got an issue on the phone. Hi, Susie, this is Courtney. I need to talk. I went to process my next payment, and there's your card bound. I'm so sorry. Give me a second. Let me fix that. And the thing is, if they are worth their salt, if they're a person of integrity, they will adjust it immediately, or at least within 24 hours, because they want to keep that relationship with you as much as you want to keep that relationship with them. It happens to the best of us. And the second thing is this: if you know you cannot make your payment to your customer, to the person you're working with, grow up and tell them. I'll give you a personal example. I just did a course with someone, and there was a moment where I was like, ooh, the payment was due on such a date. They sent me a note. I said, hey, I will not be able to make the payment on this date. Can I have until? And I followed up, and I made sure that when the extension that I asked for, that the money was there and the payment was able to transpire. Well, what did I do? I took responsibility, and I said, I'm showing you integrity by saying, number one, I don't want you to swipe my credit card and I know it's going to bounce. No, I don't want to be embarrassed like that. Nobody else does either. That's number one. Number two, taking responsibility and saying, I'm not able to make this payment right now, but I need until this date. And then you make sure that the money is there, and then you confirm it with them so they know. And then you get it in writing so that they know that, number one, they will appreciate if you will take the initiative to show them that you value their services, and you want to make sure they get paid, and you also show integrity to the relationship, so that in the future, when you need to work with them again, no problem, Dee. Because here's the thing: your track record means everything. This out here, what y'all call these internet, these social media streets, people. Look, right now we're live around the world. Trust and believe. There's somebody who has interaction with somebody. You're like, man, it takes 30 seconds or less to mess up, to ruin your reputation, ruin everything that you have worked so hard for, because you won't take what I'm saying as a proactive approach to address your collections and address your money. I took responsibility to this person, and I said, nope, I know that in good faith, I know that if you quick swap my card that day, the money ain't there. So why am I going to mess up the relationship? Why not just take the responsibility and say, listen, could you do me a favor? Let me have until this date, and then make sure the money is there. Follow through, and you do that. And then here's the thing: you don't ruin the relationship. You actually show the person that you are being responsible, which means you're being an adult, which means you're being a business owner, which means you are saying, okay, the buck stops with me. And if I can't show my customer that I value them, then why would they continue to work with me? And like I said, in these internet streets, it takes 30 seconds or less for your whole reputation to be jacked up, and then you're going to spend the rest of your time trying to. Well, what had happened was nobody cares.
Yeah, all they remember is that initial story. And, this conversation is so important because business is all about relationships,
Yes.
maintaining them, creating them, and strengthening them. And, you mentioned it earlier, we're definitely in a pandemic, which certainly impacts the economy. So, what advice would you give to business leaders who are trying to be understanding with their customers and clients by being more flexible, but also they want to ensure that they don't experience cash flow crises in their own businesses? So, say for instance, some of us may have some of those clients who do take that initiative and say, you know what, I can't pay on this date that I was contractually obligated to. Can you give me until blah or what have you? How understanding can we be? Should we be without putting our own businesses in jeopardy, Dee?
Well, number one, I think because of the conditions we're in right now, it's in your best interest to do so. It really is, because this pandemic right now is impacting your cash flow today, but you have a relationship that once you get over this hump, prayerfully, you're going to continue to do business. And you got to look at this past today. You got to look at it long term. Now if that's your plan, and now if this is a one-hit wonder and you're going to do this one time and okay, got it. But I'm in the relationship business. The reason I do what I do is because it's all about building relationships. So, number one, make the phone call. Just like this is really no different than when your credit card company says to you, hey, as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure most of either the credit card companies, I know for sure car companies have said, hey, if you're having troubles making your payment, please call us. Why? Because they know right now you might be in the middle of a financial shortage right now, but they're concerned about the relationship. And they know that if they don't work with you right now and help you address this issue right now, that you might default totally on the loan, and they don't want to lose that money. So I recommend you get on the phone as soon as you can. Call your customer, of course, review your contract, talk about the invoices that are owed to you. Ask them what can you do right now? What can you pay me today? You may have to take a partial payment. Fine, document it, put it in an email, follow it up, and then then look on the calendar. Schedule. Okay, I'm doing a partial payment today, and in 15 days or 30 days we're going to do this. Don't ruin the relationship because because your cash flow is tight. Look at this, that it's right now. It will be fixed now, and you will get paid. But if you just go left and don't honor that relationship, if that customer ends up doing larger deals and they're looking for people to come on board with them, they're going to remember how you treated them during this time, and they may not respond, or they may be like, oh yeah, I definitely want to work with them. Because all of us have situations where making payments is a challenge. It happens professionally and personally. It's what you do during this time, and if you show integrity. Because if you already have a good track record with your customer, meaning you provide excellent service and they pay you, or vice versa, most customers don't have a problem with you asking them once. It's the people that keep being repetitive offenders. They're like, no, because every time I ask you for this, it's all good. One or two times, fine. But as soon as you can, do that and then follow up. That's what my recommendation. That was my recommendation.
Okay, so make sure that they don't just completely take advantage or misadvantage, if you will, of your kindness during this time. That makes perfect sense. So at some point, business leaders will need to engage a collection service. So Dee, what should they look for in this kind of support?
What a great question. Someone like me, no.
Yeah.
No, seriously, if you're a small business that has grown, and you're struggling with the back office part, which is the invoicing and collections, you would talk to someone like me who or myself or others who have this kind of experience, who have, first of all, ask for credentials. How long have you been doing this? How long have you been doing this? Who are your, just like we asked everybody else, where's your references? Who have you done this for? Okay, so for the record, who have I done this for? The United States Coast Guard headquarters. I recovered $7.5 million in 1 year. You can Google me right now and you can find me and find out that I was featured in Black Enterprise Magazine for Sealing the Money Leaks, 5 ways to secure your cash flow. So there's your proof.
So they need to have a track record of results, essentially, right?
Results. Because here's the thing, you're not gonna. Okay, so a couple of things. You'd probably have a checklist. You'd ask them, okay, what kind of, if you were looking to engage someone like myself, you'd ask me, okay, what kind of accounts do you take on? How much money can I bring to you to collect? That's one. Number two. Number three, where's your track record? Who have you done this for? Is it, because a lot of people hear my story and they think, oh, you don't deal with anybody small. That's not true. I've collected $100, I've collected $500, I've collected $1,000, and I've collected in the millions. It all depends on what's going on. I want to teach you how to recover this money yourself, because ideally, if you can learn how to do this, my goal is, and not that you won't necessarily need me, but it's for you to learn how to do this yourself, for you to get comfortable with getting the sale, getting the money. So again, credentials. Who have you done it for? How long have you been doing this? What kind of customers do you have? If I Google you, what will I find out about you? Can I talk to a customer who's worked with you? Absolutely. Here's her name, phone number, etc. And then, okay, how long will it take you to recover my money? Well, I basically say that I believe that I have results that will show up in 90 days or less. 90 days? How long have you had this money that's been outstanding? So as long as this money's been sitting outstanding, you at least give me 90 days to go in and dissect the problem, number one. Number two, come up with a plan. And number three, get to work, get your money back. So
90 days or less. Wow.
I just told you at the beginning of the story, I said I did $6 million in 60 days. That was working part-time. So that
part-time. Okay. So y'all, those of you all who are watching and listening to this, Dee, now's the time to tell the folks how they can learn more about you and how they can work with you. Where can they go?
Sure. So first of all, Courtney, I want to say thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for letting me be a part of Think Like a Thought Leader. I hope you all gain some things. Number one, ways to work with me or ways to find me. Go to www.collectthecash.biz. That's www.collectthecash.biz. And for your listening audience, there's a free ebook called Collect the Cash. It gives you 5 steps on how to recover your money. And there's also 2 other things that are on the website. There are a couple of free infographics, which basically give you the 5 steps in bite-sized chunks. In case you don't want to read the whole book, there's a sheet you can download. No, because because people are like, that's too much information. Got it. Give you a quick list. It gives you 5 steps, what you need to do. So that's one. Number 2, social media. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Especially if you're a business owner, find me on LinkedIn. Let's talk on LinkedIn, because I would love to be able to talk to you about what's going on with your business. You can schedule an appointment with me. We can talk about your accounts. Number 1. Talk about number 2. What's the challenge, and then what do you want resolved, and then how do we work together to get this resolved? And then hey, we'll hang out and have some more fun.
I love it. So Dee, this show is called Think Like a Thought Leader, and I would be remiss if I did not ask you what thought leaders have helped pave the way during your journey.
Great question. So you see all them books back there? There's too many of them for me to list, but some of the major thought leaders have been, number 1, Joyce Meyer, definitely. Bishop T.D. Jakes, number 2. Dave Ramsey, number 3. David Bach, number 4. Currently, Dr. Cheryl Wood. Those are the main 5. And of course, my for my church, my bishop, Bishop Walter Scott Thomas Sr.
Awesome. Incredible folks that you've named there. And, I think that you stopping by this show is going to help those who watch, who have taken notes, and who have really, really listened to all the gems that you drop, recover a lot of revenue. And we know that during, especially these chaotic times, that is so important. So before we wrap up, Dee, do you have any final words, final pieces of advice for business leaders to use in order to recover their revenue and create better cash flow?
Number 1, first of all, thank you again for this. As a business owner, whether you have one account or many, track your accounts. So let me go over it again. I'm old school, so I like Excel. Column number 1, name of your customer. Column number 2, contract number. Column number 3, amount of the contract. How much is the contract for? Column number 4, what did they buy from you? Column number 5, what are you supposed to deliver? 6, when did you invoice them? 7, when are you supposed to get paid? The reason I tell you to do that with one account, because you get to see the entire sales process. If you missed my example about the cell phone, I talked about the cell phone and what happens with your cell phone. Your cell phone goes through a sale, a contract, order entry, invoicing, and then you pay them. Or you have that magic button that says, ooh, services temporarily disconnected. We're trying to make sure that your services are not temporarily disconnected. The goal we're trying to get you to have is that every transaction that you have in business is actually approved. You know how you go to the store and you swipe your card when you buy stuff? You might sit like this for a second because you're like, well, I'm not sure to make sure this goes through. You're waiting for those 2 magical words that says transactions approved. Well, in business as in collections, I want to see you have your transactions approved so that you have the sale is complete and the money is actually in the bank and you are solvent, and then you can do more things. Because here's the thing, you went into business to do 2 things: make a difference and make a difference and make money. And also, you can't make a difference without the money, but you also not going to have any, you're not going to grow in your business if you don't have any money. So you have to get comfortable with also selling and also collecting. And there you have it.
Dee, thank you so much for stopping by the show and being so generous with these strategies, these insights, and this information that I know Black business leaders and change makers will be able to use. So again, thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Now, if you enjoyed this conversation and it inspired you in some way, I'd love to hear about it. And I'm pretty sure Dee would love to as well. So drop down in the comments and let us know what your number 1 takeaway was. I want to hear your aha moments from this conversation. And please feel free to spread the word by tapping that share button or by tagging a friend in the comments. And finally, in an effort to stay true to our vision and remain unbought, unbossed, and unapologetic, we've created the opportunity for those of you who enjoy this content to support us monetarily on Patreon. So for just $5 a month, for as little as $5 a month, you can invest in an emerging network dedicated to uplifting, centering, and amplifying the voices of Black leaders, educators, entrepreneurs, and change makers through media. So to patronize us, please visit thinklikeathoughtleader.com and hit that green button that says, let's build this. And if you're more comfortable giving a one-time donation, you can hit that blue button to do so. And your monthly investment will help build a groundbreaking multimedia company that will shift paradigms and empower a generation of leaders and entrepreneurs of the future. So again, to learn more about how you can help us build, please visit thinklikeathoughtleader.com and consider becoming a patron. Thank you so much to all of our amazing patrons and supporters. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk soon. Bye.